Okay, hello, and welcome to the inaugural episode of Tech and Learning Conversations, where we explore the intersection of technology, education, and student well-being. I'm your host, Kevin Hogan, and today we're diving into one of the most pressing issues facing educators, administrators, and families nationwide: the impact of social media on young people's mental health and what, if anything, can be done about it. So for our very first episode here, I'm happy to have Mikey Hothi from Common Sense Media join us to discuss California's groundbreaking Assembly Bill 56. This is legislation that would require warning labels on social media platforms for minors. This conversation couldn't be any more timely as the California Assembly Judiciary Committee gave its approval to this online safety bill just last month, moving it one step closer to becoming law this month, if and when Governor Newsom signs it. So whether you're a classroom teacher, a school administrator, or ed tech leader, this conversation should give you some insights into how policy, technology, and student well-being intersect in this rapidly evolving digital landscape, and really kind of give you a new angle with which to tackle this subject. So without further ado, let's dive into that conversation with Mikey about warning labels and what it could mean for the future of student digital safety. Okay, well, Mikey, thanks so much for joining me today. I really appreciate it. Very excited. You are the first guest for Conversations, Tech and Learning Conversations. And I think the topic and the work that you're doing is appropriate because I think this is first in the list of concerns for educators and administrators, around the country, around the world, about the mental health of their students and the use of devices and the use of social platforms. So thanks for your time.
Yeah, honored to be the first guest here and looking forward to chatting with you about AB 56.
Yeah, well, let's just dig right into that. Congratulations, I guess, are in order. It seems that it has gone through the path, but I'll let you describe kind of the state of play of your legislation and kind of the intent and where it stands right now.
Sure. Yep. So this bill started from an op-ed that the attorney or the Surgeon General at the time, Vivek Murthy, had in the New York Times related to the youth mental health epidemic and how we need social media warning labels. And so we worked very closely with Assemblymember Bauer Cahan and Attorney General Rob Bonta. Last December, we had a press conference in the Bay Area along with a survivor parent, Victoria Hinks, where we announced the bill. It's now, since December to now, it's gone through both houses of the state legislature and is on the governor's desk in a much different form than we initially started out with. We took lots of feedback and listened to some of the opposition claims. And as a result, we're on the governor's desk and we're very hopeful for a signature. The governor has about 2 to 3 weeks to act upon this, and we should find out very shortly what's going on.
Yeah. So maybe you could go a little more in depth into what exactly the warning labels are, what the intention is, like how will they be applied? Will they be seen by the students themselves? Give us a little bit of kind of on the what the day-to-day hope or intention is for their application.
Sure. So basically for minors, upon opening a social media platform, say TikTok or Snap or Facebook or whatever, you'll be confronted with a 10-second warning label that says that the Surgeon General has warned that while social media may have benefits for some young users, social media is associated with significant mental health harms and has not been proven safe for young users. So upon the initial opening of an application, you'll see that as a black box warning label that covers about 25% of the screen. And then after the 3-hour mark, you see a secondary warning label that will reappear covering about 75% of the screen. And that'll be there for 30 seconds. And then every subsequent hour thereafter. So hour 4, you get another warning label. Hour 5, hour 6. And, you would think you don't need to have these warnings set for such a long duration, but there's a lot of research that shows that the average daily usage of these platforms for minors is, I think for many in excess of 5 hours. And so this is an attempt to really, get some information out there about the negative impacts of such excessive usage.
Yeah, well, I don't want to take a look at my own iPhone screen time usage myself. I think a few adults will need these reminders as well. But this is something that can be worked into the technology. I mean, this is effective legislation for the state of California, but like once you drive into Nevada, I mean, can you talk a little bit about some of the kind of the engine of this?
Sure. So it's definitely allowable within the technical confines of these platforms. I mean, they hit you with these ads and the number of notifications that they send to you as a user. I imagine there's some data out there on that, but it's prolific, these advertisements and these push notifications. So absolutely, it's technologically feasible, but it is confined to the state of California. New York passed its own version that I believe the governor's set to sign here, or if she hasn't already, Governor Hochul. We are very involved with that effort as well. And so it's very much a state by state basis at the moment. But the hope would be that other states follow suit and then eventually the federal government.
Yeah. And you mentioned TikTok and Instagram. How are the platforms defined as platforms? And maybe you could talk a little bit. I mean, was there any industry pushback here or any industry, I don't know, contributions? Because I know a number of the companies have kind of come around to the idea that this is something that they need to deal with as well, right?
Sure. There was significant pushback. Every platform individually has reached out to the bill author, Assemblymember Bauer Cahan, and of course, we occasionally are involved in those discussions. But ultimately, if you have an addictive feed, the definition of this bill applies to your platform. And so that applies to TikTok and Snap and Insta and Facebook. And if there's an addicted feed, we used the same definition from another bill last year by Senator Nancy Skinner, SB 976. So we just kind of took that definition and put it into this bill.
Interesting, because there are so many different avenues, right? And every time, and again, as an adult, I feel that I've got everything covered. There's another platform out there, or even just reading about the recent shooting with Charlie Kirk, and I'm like, Discord server, and like, I mean, will there be a black box warning on Discord? I mean, does that
does Discord have an addictive feed?
Well. So when you say an addictive feed, is that the algorithm that?
Correct. Yep.
I guess not. I mean, I guess it is just kind of a like a bulletin board platform. So that's almost kind of a human generated addictive feed, as opposed to as you're saying, like that TikTok algorithm, right?
Sure. Yeah, I'm not overly familiar with Discord. I don't know that I've ever used it, so I'd have to look at the design features there. But I mean, I think if you're on X, you see that the content is specifically curated towards a certain your usage, and hopefully, I think from the platform's perspective, prolonging that usage, and so it applies. And so I'm not a user of Discord. I'd have to go back and look at that one.
But now, as Common Sense is a sponsor of this bill, I've been following your data and your research and your analytics for many, many years now. And, it's not, I mean, you're certainly not anti-technology. It's not a bunch of Luddites here. I mean, you encourage the use of a proper use of technology. Can you talk a little bit about, and again, for our readers, our listeners who are educators and administrators, who I think also understand the great value of screen time and devices, but being used in a correct way, to talk about that balance of content and time and direction.
Sure. Yep. So for Common Sense, we have 3 pillars for our organization. We're a nonprofit. We rate, we educate, and we advocate. So on the rating side, you might see our logo with the check mark next to certain programs. Like if you're on certain TV platform, streaming platforms, if you see the check mark, it'll generally denote whether or not a program, a TV show, or a movie is kid or family friendly. On the education front, we're in schools across the country. with over 100,000 teachers in the state of California using our digital citizenship curriculum in schools just to teach kids how to more effectively utilize, online services, internet and such. And then on the advocacy front, we try to push bills that we believe are good for kids and families. We want to protect kids and families in digital spaces. And so those are our three pillars, but we certainly aren't anti-tech. We generally don't advise against outright bans on social media usage or cell phone ban. These aren't things that we generally wade into. We try to have a very reasonable approach. We work closely with a lot of these tech companies and have had some partnerships, including with OpenAI on some ratings and reviews that we do with them. But certainly we're concerned about the excessive use of these platforms and the youth mental health epidemic. We try to call balls and strikes. And in this situation, I think there's some serious issues that we're looking to address.
Sure. Now, is California just the first stop on this? I mean, how do you see the strategies of kind of implementing this to a wider audience?
Yep, California is. I know New York passed their warning labels bill earlier, and now California has done so. I know there's been efforts in Colorado, and I've heard of a few other states where there's been language. We have a presence and staff in a number of these other states, and we have a heavy presence in DC. I don't know that we're gonna see too much with the current dynamics there, but certainly the overall objective is to have warning labels. We view them in the same way as you see the labels on tobacco and alcohol products. These are iconic fights that have happened in political history. And we think that social media is the next significant warning label that should be out there.
Yeah, it's interesting to me. I mean, again, from like this particular angle from like a state legislation, almost seems like a direct effect of the fact that there is no longer any Office of Education Technology at the federal level, right? Or any office at all within the Department of Education that is doing anything that, pardon me, in the past, I think would have been a strong proponent for something, no matter in a bipartisan sense. I mean, it very much seems to be. Did you find much? You said that there were compromises made, and it looked a lot different when it ended up on the desk as when it started, which happens a lot with legislation. Were there any surprises there of things that like maybe that you compromised on, or were people say in the industry said, all right, well, maybe this is a good way to go about it?
Yeah, I know our hope was that we'd have a warning label generally applicable to kids and adults, because we want for adults, for parents to know just how harmful these platforms can be towards their children. But that's one of the amendments that we took, was to have the warning label narrowed to minors. And so I don't know about necessarily surprises there, but I feel like the bill author has been very reasonable on this. Initially, the warning label is going to be 90 seconds and it was going to be impassable. And after 3 hours, you're going to have another impassable 90 seconds. That's not the case anymore. Now it's 10 seconds and it's applicable to minors. And so I don't know that they're necessarily surprised. I think over the course of the legislative process, this bill has landed in a spot where it's still set to be very effective, and I think a great model for other states to follow.
Yeah. Along those lines, any recommendations for our readers and listeners to kind of pick the ball up in whatever district they're in or whatever state they're in, and to kind of push this forward in their own areas?
Absolutely. Right now, it's a big push to get people to email the governor's office. If you go to the governor's website, you can find an email address to weigh in on AB 56. We've had over 600 parents, educators, families already weigh in with the governor over the last few days here. And we're just trying to really have this momentum, to have this public push to get this done, because we don't have the resources, the lobbying power of big tech, but I think behind us we have people power, we have grassroots, and ultimately I think that's hopefully what will win the day here.
Yeah, well, again, congratulations. I mean, this is really an interesting, as I said, to kind of angle to address the problem. I'll be interested to see and track its progress and hopefully there'll be able to be some data to show its successes. So thanks again for your time. I appreciate it. And I hope we can talk again as these start to take place in other states as well.
Yeah, I appreciate the time. October 13th is the deadline for the governor to sign or veto legislation. It has not been acted upon yet. We're told this is going to happen probably a little bit later, closer to that October 13th date. So it's not too late to get a letter in. I would appreciate any grassroots support on that front. And I just want to thank you, Kevin, for your time. I'm so honored to be your first guest here.
All right. Thanks again, Mikey.
Thank you.
Once again, a big thank you to Mikey for being our very first guest and helping us launch this important dialogue. If you found our conversation valuable, please share it with your colleagues and bookmark this page to stay updated on future episodes. We'd love to hear from you about topics you'd like for us to explore or guests you think would bring valuable perspectives to our education community. Next week, we'll be speaking with Madeline Mortimer. She's the Global Education, Innovation, and Research Lead for Logitech. And we'll talk about the challenges that school districts can face when evaluating technology. She can draw extensively on her research-backed guidance and offer a number of considerations to help schools make smarter investments. Until next time, keep advocating for your students, keep learning, and keep the conversation going about how we can make technology work better for education and for our kids. Thanks for listening to Tech and Learning Conversations.